Hi everybody, myself Sarvesh. I hope Anjana will be joining us in a minute. So let me just introduce ourselves. If I'm not wrong, is the screen sharing? Yeah, coming. So let me just introduce myself. I'm Sarvesh Parikh and I'm recently joined UiPath as a UiPath Student Developer Champion, and so did Anjana. So let me just take you through a project or maybe the use case we are presenting right now. So this was something what we tried. We have tried our level best. So Anjana, can you please navigate to next slide? So yeah. So first, let me say what are the things we'll be seeing in a short span of time. We'll introduce ourselves. We'll have a small thing what our project expert is trying to solve here. What is the vision and mission, and project explanation, and it will be the diagram. So moving on. Next slide, please. Yeah, so as I have already mentioned, you guys, we both did recently joined UiPath as a UiPath Student Developer Champions. And I will pause here for a second just to see this. And our team name is Duo Champ, which I think is self-explanatory. We both UiPath Student Developer Champions, and so is the name. Yeah, next slide, please, Vandana. So yeah, so what we are doing here is like you see a lot of companies these days keep hiring, right? Recently, InfiniQ exam just passed by, and the Hack with Infi has begun. So what these companies do is like they conduct exam, they hire a lot of people at mass number in like short span of time. How will they all add these people in a database within a short span, give them their own like how to say the company ID or maybe email ID of their own for the corporate use and all those things? It's a lot of numbers, right? So InfiniQ usually hires nearly 30,000 in India every year. So it's not easy to add every single data of 30,000 peoples in India. They will be all over the world and all those stuff. I don't need to explain because you guys are already in corporate. So you know the hard things, right? So what we are trying to solve here is like, why should we do it manually? So we are just trying to solve that. We will be collecting every data of the employee which is being selected, or maybe which is the employee who is almost welcome to company, but yet to do the formalities. So we will collect their database, their data, and update it to the database. Create their own company, maybe the employee ID and the employee email ID. Employee ID here refers to the number which they get in their ID cards or maybe the verification cards which they use. And the email ID is self-explanatory. So our mission is like TCS is a huge company. They have already they might have come across this problem and they might have solved it. So we are just bringing it for a small scale or medium scale company. So and the vision we look forward is to do it as simple as possible, make it as fast as possible, and make it uh, time efficient, to be frank, time efficient. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, I hope let's start. Yeah, now the slide is visible. So the user input here is like the corporates will give the employees offer letter. So usually employees offer letter will have a certain data, like who is the employee or maybe a set of data, right? You know, so those data will be the user input. It will what the next step is like the bot will fetch the entire details from those offer letters from those offer letters, and it will put those in the web application. It will enter it in the web application. It will get the employee ID. It will fetch it right from there, like employee ID and also the email ID. It will fetch it and it will add it to the database. Database in the sense I'm talking about the already a database in which already the pre-existing employees are there. So yeah, next slide, please.
Yeah, so good evening, myself Anjana. So moving on to what is asked is to be diagram as we have seen. what is the existing process, as Sarvesh told, is that as an HR, when you are onboarding a lot of employees or the freshers who are just graduating, be it you hire them in on campus or off campus, you get their details, you do the background verification and all of it, and that almost takes 30 to 45 minutes for entering at least 10 to 15 employees. And what happens is that you have to generate credentials and give to them as when you're moving into work from home and a lot of other situations, you have to give them the virtual ID and things that has to be worked on. And the next thing is, as an HR person, concentrating on improving the productivity, on efficiency, on hiring good people, it takes a lot of time. You just manually enter those data. So the gap that we found is this place, and what we wanted to is to automate the process, make them easier to get the details rather than manually entering it, so that they can concentrate on other things. So moving on to our demo, what the website will look like. First, I'll say this is the website that we have done using the normal mean stack, and this is deployed on Firebase. So as you could see, this could be customized for every company or the small scale businesses that are hiring, that are growing in recent times. So they will just fill the form, and they'll once they accept that, the employee ID and the mail ID is generated. So when you are doing it for 10 to 15 persons, it may be difficult. But if you have a data in the Excel, you can just copy paste. But the problem lies in, you have to have that particular Excel in order to you just manually do this process. So what we thought, like, why can't we remove all of this and have a single bot that can read those documents, understand what is in there, and get the details and all of it. So for that, we found the RE framework to be the best one. Why RE framework rather than a sequential process is because for transactional processes and to connect with the orchestrator, deeply RE framework is the best suited, and it handles all the system exceptions that are commonly done, so you can easily scale and do it. And I want to show what this file is all about. So as you could see, this is the config file that will be in the pre-boiled template of RE framework. So what we have done is that in the settings, we have given this. For example, I am running this bot, and my manager says, you don't run from this folder, you run from a different folder. Going and changing into the hard code of the, going into the studio, analyzing and changing all of those would be a tedious task. But if
Anjana,
you
is it
could
just
just
me,
change,
or I'm just seeing the presentation slide, not your UiPath screen? I believe is it just me, or
yeah. So
were you planning to
Yes.
show the UiPath screen, or?
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt
I
you.
was showing. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. I hope my screen is visible now. Yeah. So this is the RE framework, as I talked about, and this is the config file. We can just change it here so that the manager gets to. So if any changes that have been set by the team, we can easily do it rather than just going into the workflow and changing all of those. So moving on to what our files is going to look like. This is the appointment letter that has been there. So as you could see, these are the important details that are there, and there are the terms and conditions, and they are just going to sign it and send. So it is going to read using the read PDF activity, which is there, and is going to store all the details on the on different variables, and going to enter it on the web application that I have specified here. So the main advantage is that whatever thing that you're going to do, so there are a lot of activities like OCR. You can also do substring, and you can use the find index method to just find those important details and do it. So the main feature that we are included is whatever appointment letter that you give, it is going to automatically adjust to it, and it's going to find the important details. So we have combined half bit of OCR and half bit of substring indexing here. So this is going to read using the read PDF activity, and there is a Word file where there are details like your Aadhaar number and all of it, which is going to be fetched. And moving on to running the bot now. So let me just close all the files for a second. Yeah. So when I go and run this, so it has debugged. It is going to debug and kill all those processes and give it a couple of minutes to
Can you
run.
stop it and restart it? Just run it instead of debug, because debug will take some time.
Yeah.
Okay. While this runs, once is running, Bhavesh, Steve, Nidhi, any questions for Sarvesh and Anjana?
Yes, I have few questions for the Anjana and Bhavesh. So the first question would be, how are you are doing the credential generation for each employee?
So the website uses math function, so it's going to generate continuous numbers for employee ID and the mail ID based on the first name and last name. Is going to generate a mail ID on the domain of uipath.com. And for the employee ID, it's a sequential generation. After a particular cycle of the employee numbers, it's going to again revert back to different numbers. So that's what.
Okay, so it's sort of a counter you're using behind the scene just to increment the employee number or the ID, right?
Yeah, just incrementing the employee number and using the random function auto.
Okay, and does it cover the password generation as well?
Actually, it doesn't cover password generation, but it generates email ID alone.
Cool. A quick feedback on this, because UiPath already have the activities related to the Active Directory, where you can generate the user ID and password with just 2 activities to use. I could tell this because this was my first hackathon use case as well. So yeah, I could completely relate. And yeah, that's all from my end. And I could see that you are using the PDF as the offer letter, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you are not using DU, or is it just the read PDF activities you are using?
We are just using the PDF activity.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Oh, I can go next. So again, I would say excellent work on putting this presentation together. I think so. Right from the table of content to introduction to kind of you introduce the business problem what you're trying to solve. You talked about the as is and then kind of your future state. So I thought there was a very consulting style presentation there. So I thought you guys covered that quite a level of detail, very crisp, not really felt rushed. So I thought that was a good presentation there. Good job. I would say a little bit of planning in terms of how to demo this, I think would have helped you kind of continue that little bit, that smooth presentation further. I just have one question. Again, the offer letters and appointment letter, I think you used one example of appointment letter. These tend to become more semi-structured, borderline into unstructured type of documents, not crazy contract looking one, right? But at least some level of semi-structured nature is there, right? Every offer letter, appointment letter is going to be different, right? So how do you see this, the features and functionality within UiPath, what you are using? How do you see that kind of helping you? What features you will have to be carefully exploiting and exploring those to handle that? So if you're able to throw some light on that.
So actually, we have just done this basic read PDF activity, and as you said, different companies are going to have different formats out there. So what we thought, in order to stabilize those different types of things that is present, is one thing that UiPath has is this OCR. So when you do OCR, although it's going to give it not in a very finished form, it's going to give a kind of unstructured detailed text to you. You can then build those string activities that we already know in order to do that. So in terms of feature, now there is a new feature of document understanding. Actually, we are not just aware about how those use cases work. So that's why we moved into this particular cycle of workflow. So we thought of exploring that, and also we thought of integrating this offer letter automation itself. So before this platform on a future work, you can add this offer letter automation so that you won't have that template differences that you're saying, and the company is going to just manually give their own template and then run this bot. So you will have this workflow kind of set up there. So that's what is our thought process.
Awesome. Thank you. Steve?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so great use case team. We've seen organizations do this type of automation and be very successful. I know you started with some of the basic functions. Where if you had time to work on this, what else would you add to what other functions or onboarding activities do you think you might add to this if you were doing more with it?
Yeah, the features that we thought we can kind of add in is this: the first, when the employee like gives his own details on the platform that you are given, be it internship or be it a job process or something. We thought of they'll always give their LinkedIn IDs, GitHub IDs, and all of it, and there is a lot of background check that goes on that. So we thought of adding that feature of automatically analyzing their background and validating whether it's fine, and then more if they are valid, we are going to have that on the status. Usually when the employees get selected, they'll have this hired form. Along with that, we can include this feature of whether their background is validated or not to give it a more touch to it, and then move into the offer letter automation and then come to it. So this whole point of streamlining would happen. So these are things we thought.
It's excellent. Also, in the U.S., for example, when someone is hired, they have to sign up for healthcare. I mean, there may be regional things that you would add as well for this additional authentication and background check. So this is it's a great use case. You guys did terrific work here. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anjana.
So,
and yes, sorry. Go ahead, Anjana. You were
so
saying
the bot
something.
is also completed running, and
Okay.
this is the output that we are going to get after this.
Perfect. I would do one thing. I'd probably see if if Anuka could give you some insights on actual onboarding, right? So that you could improve your use case in a better way, right? Reach out to Anuka on LinkedIn. She would love to schedule some time with you if she is free. Anuka, I would request you to do that if you are
Yes,
free sometime.
I had those in mind. Like you can do a lot of announcement here, lot of announcement regarding the offer letter also. Like there are so many things you can do with that in the onboarding. There are many things like the use case which you have presented. I think you can do better in that.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. So Anjana, Anuka will get in touch with you, or you can get in touch with Anuka on LinkedIn, and we will definitely look forward for an improved use case from you sometime soon. That being said, awesome presentation. Like Vavesh mentioned, consulting mindset was visible there. Just that some tweaking could have made some other difference here. Anyone else has any questions on this use case before we move on to the next one? Okay, moving on then. Thank you so much, Anjana and Sarvesh. All the best.